Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to my second encounter with the brand Horizon. Horizon is the brand owned and operated by Fred Becker, who also designs many of the world's top micro brands. Sorry about that, I had something in my eye there. Now, he takes a really singular design route for his own pieces. He's clearly a big fan of the Jules Verne novels and has gone full send, 20,000 leagues under the steampunk sea for all three of his Horizon designs so far. Today I'm looking at the Nemo, a smaller and more wearable version of his first design that was simply known as the N. This one goes live on Kickstarter very soon later this month. I'll leave a link in the description of the video to that campaign. You can drop your email address and get notified when the project goes live. There are already close to 700 people waiting patiently for that notification, so I think this one is going to be a bit of a hit. And you know what? The design here is fantastic. There are loads of touches that I just haven't seen anywhere else. But the eternal question remains, is the rest of the watch any good? Let's flip the camera and find out. Alright, let's get into it. Unfortunately, I cannot show you the retail packaging today because I was not sent the retail packaging, but I can show you two of the different colour versions because I was sent two of the different colour versions. I was also sent the bracelet and the colour match rubber strap, so I'll show you both of these on bracelet and strap over the course of the video. Before I even get into it though, let's talk colours and let's talk prices. Now, of course, if you're interested in this one, I urge you to check out the website and the Kickstarter campaign for more information. I'll leave links to both in the description. There are 7 different colour versions of these, 3 different dial varieties as well. There's a relatively plain textured finish dial, the orange and the black. Then there are a couple of vertical brush metallic finish dials, which really look spectacular, and 3 horizontal organic wave dials, for want of a better term. You kind of see where they're going here. They all have rather nautical names as well. For example, the 2 that I have are coral and kelp. But how much are they? Well, the Kickstarter price is $700. The regular retail price is $1,170. Sorry, that got stuck in my throat there. I think that says a couple of different things. The first is, if you're keen, buy it on the Kickstarter campaign. The second is, they might struggle a little bit to get that MSRP further down the track, to be honest. But let's have a look at both of these in a little bit more detail. They are lovely. Like I said, so many unique little touches here that are Fred's and Fred's alone, or should that be Horizons and Horizons alone? This font, this unique Arabic numeral font here they used that on the N, the model that I showed you in the introduction. The 6 and 9 both are meant to represent the Nautilus shell. Of course, Nautilus was the name of Captain Nemo's submarine in the Jules Verne novels. So many nice little touches. And these dials, look at that. That just looks spectacular. Sapphire bezel insert, porthole date down at the 4 o'clock. Rarely have I seen a date so well and interestingly integrated, although perhaps it is a little bit small, more on that later. The crown is fantastic as well, and the bracelet. Believe it or not, this is not an integrated bracelet. If you watched my Citizen Suyosa small second review from last week, you may remember me saying that it neither looked nor wore like an integrated bracelet watch. Check the drop on this, for example. It doesn't really feel like a kind of standard integrated bracelet style at all. It feels just like a regular removable bracelet. Whereas the Nemo, despite the fact that the bracelets are very much removable, quick release spring bars, very much looks and wears like an integrated bracelet watch. Check the drop on this. Now that does have consequences for those with smaller than average wrists, but it's a really, really interesting look. I've never seen a bracelet integrated quite like this. Again, more interesting touches. This is Horizon's signature 3-piece case construction, which I'll show you in just a second. But before then, let's have a look at the coral one and then talk dimensions. This is the so-called coral version with the vertical brush metallic dial, and it is no less spectacular than that wave dial kelp version. Look at how the dial changes. It's dull, deep silver, and then it pops to champagne and back again. Really interesting. I've seen vertical brush dials before, I've seen metallic dials before, but I don't think I have seen a dial quite as dynamic as this one before. So Fred's idea with this Nemo was to take some of the design cues from the N, but put them into a more compact and wearable watch. So 40mm in diameter, 11.8mm thick with a 46.8mm lug tip to lug tip. 22mm lug width though. You would normally expect 40-20, that's the kind of classic, but I think it works really well. Gives the head of the watch a bit more visual presence, but is offset by a cracking taper down to 15 at the multiple on the fly adjustable butterfly clasp. When did this become a thing? About last month. This is the first time I saw it, was with the Christopher Ward 12X, and here we are, 2 in 2 months. I'll show you how all of this works a bit later on, but just fantastic. Like I said, so many interesting design touches. 200 meters of water resistant screw down crown. That is box sapphire crystal because it is a retro style watch, and the movement in the back, as you would expect for the price, is Swiss. It's a Sellita SW200-1. Case back's very nice, all stainless, screw down, usual spec sheet advertising the integrated date as well as the 20 atmosphere, the 316L and the SW200. These are all going to be individually numbered, by the way, and I'm guessing, but that looks like kelp to me. The SW200, as you may well be aware, is a 26 jewel clone of the ETA 2824, identical architecture, just one extra jewel. 40-hour power reserve, hacking and hand winding, bi-directional winding. This one with a date wheel down there at the 4, very, very unusual. To operate the movement, unscrew the crown, you feel a distinct pop, roll the crown forward to wind, pull it out to the first position, roll it forward again to adjust the date there, you can see 5, 6, 7, etc. Pull it out one more time, hack second hand, and adjust the time accordingly. Screw it back in when you're done. Bob's your uncle. And I'm sure your Uncle Bob would approve of that case profile because it is gorgeous. You don't always get that curvature with a retro style case. Quite a lot of these retro divers emulate the skin diver style, which tends to be much flatter, but not this one, and it fits all the better for it. Lovely finishing too, vertical brushing on the mid case there, and as discussed, there's this 3-piece case construction, so you get those retro stepped lugs. And look at that profile as well, coin edge bezel with that box sapphire sticking out the top. Bezel action is great, 120 click unidirectional. Oh, just fantastic. Not a huge amount of grip from the bezel itself because it's high polish and coin edge, but really, really nice firm action. Oh, very, very good. And it's arguably even nicer on the crown side. Look at how that brush section narrows down to a point on those crown guards. Again, another Horizon signature, that indented crown, just beautifully recessed in between those two crown guards. You can tell this man designs watches for a living, can't you? And it's the same with the bracelet, it's just another really nice piece of design here. I've already talked about the taper from 22 down to 15. Flat, all brushed upper surfaces look great in a wrist roll, but check the side profile, trapezoidal links. Reminds me of those old First World War tanks that used tracks and, you know, the tractors with tracks, etc. That is how they tend to link into each other. And check the clasp. Now it only opens one side, so you've got to make sure that you put one end in first and then the other, because the Horizon badge sits splitting that vertical horizontal seam in the middle. But let's check out these adjustments. Alright, so let's pop it open and then let's have a look at what the adjustments do. So you actually have two different positions on each side. Squeeze it in from the side, there's the first position, squeeze it in again, there's the second position. And again at the other side, squeeze it in, pull it out a little bit to the first position, and then pull it out a little bit again to the second position, meaning you have 4 different micro adjust positions which you can operate on the fly. It looks a little bit awkward in operation, but that's on the bottom of your wrist. Not the most noticeable element, and I'm sure you will thank Fred for the extra comfort that it offers. Alright, dial and hands, let's have a brief look at both. It's the same layout, but the dials are different. This kelp one is one of 3 with that kind of horizontal organic leaf pattern running through it. Big, tall, applied indices. The indices themselves are 0.6mm tall, which is about as tall as I've seen, especially considering the watch itself is less than 12mm thick. Circular indices most of the way around, but Arabics at the 12, the 3, the 6 and 9. As discussed, these are a Horizon exclusive font. You'll see them on the other watches, but you won't see them elsewhere, with the signature integrated date complication at the 4 o'clock. Horizon branding just printed on beneath the 12 and the Nemo model name printed on above the 6. And a very stylish and stylized printed minute track around the outer edge beyond the indices. Hands are simple swords, high polished silver but with beveled edges. Now this kelp model features Fotina and therefore C3 old radium style loom. Again, a choice you have to make that comes with the dial patterning. Some of them have BGW9 and a more modern clean white look, whereas some of them use old radium style and this Fotinaed off yellow look. This coral variant has that crisper white, more modern clean look and does indeed utilise BGW9 loom, as you'll see in just a second. But once again, have a look at that vertical brushing and have a look at how it changes the shade and the tone of the dial. I'm not moving the watch around all that much, but the colours are varying considerably. Really interesting. Alright, in terms of loom, it's coral on the left this time and kelp on the right, and as you can see, the loom is quite different. All BGW9 for the coral, hence the clean white look on the dial and the hands, whereas it's C3 old radium style on the kelp, hence the Fotina on the dial and hands there. Both sapphire bezel inserts though use BGW9, so you do get a bit of a mismatch on the Fotinaed versions. When I turn the speed up on these two though, they both last quite well. Not something you can always say of C3 old radium style. In fact, at the end of my 20-minute test, I think it's neck and neck between the two designs. Alright, I promised you 4 different wrist shots, so here is the first of 4 different wrist shots. It's the kelp on the integrated-ish bracelet. My goodness, what a wrist roll though. Not as flashy as some because there's no high polish here, all those brush surfaces, but lots of short links mean a really, really nice roll. I've got a snug fit on this one at the moment as sized, but remember I do have 4 different holes of adjustment outwards should I require it. Nice and slim on wrist as well at sub 12 despite that box dome sapphire. Now I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one to people with 6.5-inch wrists or downwards because there isn't an awful lot of articulation from those first links as you saw. It's okay on me, but yeah, like I said, much smaller than me and you might be in trouble. You might be better off on the rubber, but as this bracelet's so nice, you really want to be wearing it on the bracelet. Rubber's not too bad though, FKM, so no dust and no fluff, and again, lots of angles, lots of nice design touches, just like the head of the watch. And that's the coral colour variant on a colour matched grey strap. It's still 104 grams on the rubber, so 140 grams on the bracelet as size for me, 104 grams on the rubber. That means it's still got a bit of heft and a bit of presence even on this lighter strap. And that's number 4, grey, grey and more grey, but you know what? I quite like grey. Plenty to like here then. It is a lovely piece of design, but I'm still going to complain about a few things. The date complication. It's the second time in the last couple of months that I have seen a date complication on a watch that is so small, you kind of wonder why they bothered. Yeah, it's alright, but you're going to have to bring this one pretty close to get a read on it, and that's with single digits. Once you start adding a second digit in there, they become even smaller, and therefore even more difficult to read. There is a little bit of technique involved in getting the micro adjustment to work. You kind of squeeze, pull to loosen it, but it's not going to be as easy to tighten it on the fly. You're probably better taking the watch off of your wrist to tighten it. And there's a lot going on here. You've got 4 little pushers, plus the 2 pushers to release the butterfly clasp. They do kind of foul each other, so you need to go kind of in and around the other smaller pushers on the micro adjust in order to pop the butterfly clasp. As noted, there's not a huge amount of articulation from those first links, so It is going to protrude a little bit and you're in danger of overhanging on either side if your wrist is much smaller than mine. You can see exactly what I mean, I'm sure, when I put this one side by side with the Seosa again. And there is a huge disparity between Kickstarter price and MSRP. Sure, it makes the Kickstarter price look all the more appealing, but if you're watching this video in 6 months' time and they're trying to charge you MSRP, you'll be asking yourself, is the watch really worth $500 more today than it was 6 months ago during the campaign? But there's so many unique and interesting touches here. I think Fred deserves a lot of credit for what he's trying to do with Horizon as a brand. He loves Jules Verne, he loves this whole look, and his entire watch brand is reflective of that. You gotta commend a guy for being passionate about something and seeing it through to the maximum possible level. So there you have it, a visually very interesting and materially very solid watch, this one, packed full of neat and unique pieces of design. The question then becomes, is it a design that resonates with you? And the RRP is ambitious, shall we say, so it's definitely something you want to pick up on Kickstarter rather than waiting. If you want to check out one of Fred's other watches, click here. If you want to see my favourite Zelos, click here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again in the next one.